Hi, everyone, and welcome to Point of Purchase, episode 19. Today's topic is shift in aisle 23, and we're going to be discussing how independent grocers are innovating and thriving with e-commerce as we roll into 2023. My name is Trisha Williams, and I'm the managing partner and client success leader at eCommerce. We're an e-commerce services agency that helps our clients to grow their online business, and I'm so excited to be your host for today's episode since we're just getting back after our summer hiatus. So we're back today with two great guests and a topic that I think will be really interesting to many, I'm sure. But first, for those who are new to Point of Purchase, or POP as we call it, it's a live web series presented by Geek Speak Commerce. And in each episode, we dive into topics surrounding the retail and e-commerce ecosystems, everything from industry news to technology, best practices, business strategies, and so much more. We tap into our own experiences as an e-com services provider, and we bring in experiences from all over the industry. Now, you can catch us live on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube to join in on the conversation. You could actually join in right now by leaving us a comment to let us know where you're watching from, let us know which city or town, and of course, feel free to ask any questions you might have as we work our way through the show. And we'll try to pick those up at the end of the show. So let's get right into it. As mentioned, our topic for this episode is shift in aisle 23. How independent grocers are innovating and thriving with e-commerce as we roll into year 2023. Today's topic came about for us because we're actually recently become a member of the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers and have been working very closely with a number of grocery brands and retailers over the past few years to help them optimize their presence online. And we're really excited to be heading to the Grocery Innovations at Canada next month, which is a conference led by CFIG, which you'll hear more about in a bit near the end of the show. And it's no secret or surprise that grocery was one of the categories that evolved the quickest through the pandemic, with many retailers expanding their fulfillment channels in order to offer delivery, curbside pickup, buy online and pick up in store, and so much more. We also saw a surge in grocery sales at the start of the pandemic with all of the panic buying. I'm sure we all remember that, and stocking up of non-perishables and hygiene products. But what have grocers, especially independent grocers, been doing to keep this momentum moving forward now that we're 2 years past that initial shock of the pandemic? Here to dive into this with me are my two guests, Brian Bradley, president of Stong's Market in Vancouver, BC, and Michael Sharp, owner of Sharp's Food Market in Campbellford, Ontario. Hi, Michael. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Trisha.
Thanks so much for joining me today. All right. So we've got the Vancouver coast, the BC coast covered off with Brian, and Mike, you are out in Campbellford, Ontario. So why don't we kick things off? I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. Brian, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thanks, Trisha, and thanks for having me here today. As you said, I'm the president of Stong's Market. We're a local, independently owned grocer in the greater Vancouver area. We have two locations. Our primary location is located on the Dunbar Street, where we've been for over 90 years in different locations up and down the street, with our current site, which opened in 2016. Our other store is located in the Dollarton area of North Vancouver. And that's where we also operate our online grocery business known as Stong's Express. We have a strong tradition at Stong's of supporting local and smaller suppliers. And in many examples, we'd be the first grocer to list a product on their shelves after somebody's tried their product at a farmer's market or other local market and want to get into retail. And we're generally one of the first that would put it on our shelves and introduce that product to our customer base. We're also known for our huge selection of premium, organic, and natural products, in addition to conventional offerings that you'd see in every grocery store. And we also like to make sure we put a huge focus on fresh. So that's just a little bit about Stong's Market.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. I mentioned to you before that I'd love to make it out to see your stores in person one of these days.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and I love the focus on, local producers. That's fantastic. All right, so over to you, Mike.
So Sharp's Food Market is in Campbellford, Ontario, as you said. It's a independent grocery store that's been around since 1963. So I'm a third generation. My grandfather started it. My father ran it for years, and we're just the third generation getting into it right now. We're known particularly for our meat. We're a very large meat business. Meat and produce is our specialty. We do the same things. We do a lot of local vendors. Work with a lot of local farmers in our area, and we proud to be an independent in Ontario.
That's awesome. So third generation, that's quite the legacy to leave behind in that community. It's fantastic. Okay, so Brian, you are also a board member of the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers. Can you explain the role of the CFIG within the grocery ecosystem?
Yeah, sure, Tricia. I mean, the CFIG represents about 6,900 independent grocers from coast to coast across Canada. As a lot of people know, the industry in Canada is dominated by large national chains and we continue to see consolidation with those bigger retailers in the business. So with CFIG, it's nice to have a voice for the smaller players in the market, and generally, most of those independents are a big part of their local communities. So the CFIG can represent independent grocers on a wide range of everything from government advocacy to food safety to training. This could include fair credit card and interchange fees that we've had to fight for. Could be providing input on a grocery code of conduct that's in the works right now. Also to government grants and things such as energy programs where there's grants available, even things such as cheese quotas and labeling requirements. So essentially, the CFIG is a big voice for the little guys in this business.
Awesome. And it's so necessary because, as you called out, there's a small handful of those larger companies that really dominate the Canadian market. So absolutely a need for it. Okay, so Mike, I know that you are a member. So can you speak about the CFIG from a member's perspective? What has your experience been like?
There's two things that we've always loved about CFIG. The one side is the part that we group together, the part in Ottawa where they work with things like interchange fees. When they had the beer and wine licenses, they made sure that a certain portion got cut out for independents. It didn't all just go to the top three big guys. And there's a lot of occasions like that where I wouldn't be able to get in the front door, but as a group, we're able to work together to be part of the conversation. Like the code of conduct is a very big one right now, that trying to make it level and fair, because a lot of us, even though we're independent, we still have to do a lot of buying from those big competitors of ours.
Right.
So it puts us at a disadvantage in this situation. The other thing they do from the education and from the shows and from the community side is it gives us a chance to kind of meet other grocers, have conversations, and learn best practices from them for things where, being in rural Campbellford, there's not a lot of people you can turn to if you have a problem, but I can call someone up and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this. I'm having trouble merchandising. I'm having trouble finding a product. Do you know where I do that? And I've got a whole bunch of people that will pick up the phone and have a conversation with me, which is really, really helpful to have.
That's awesome. It's great to have a community and, resources that you can lean on for sure. That's excellent. So I'm sure both of you know very well, over the past 2 years, the grocery category has been in the headlines just about every day for a range of reasons. And some of those buzzwords have included things like essential service, frontline workers, heroes even, supply chain issues now. And more recently, much of the conversation has been around high fuel prices and inflation. Can you share some insights on what this actually looks like on the ground from your perspective? Brian, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think to say that the last couple of years have been unusual would be a massive understatement. I think there's no playbook. There was no playbook to deal with the things we were having to deal with and the situations as they came up, and no previous experience to really draw from with particularly the pandemic and the extensive impact it had. At one point in time, we were making decisions, if not on a daily, even at sometimes an hourly basis, we were changing what our stores looked like and how we were even operating. And I think, you commented on, our being frontline heroes, and the public image of the grocery business quickly changed as customers came to rely on their local grocery stores, all grocery stores, in ways they never had before. So to get through a pandemic, we get through that, and then you throw in some natural disasters, and highways are wiped out, and
Yeah.
transportation challenges, and then on top of that, there's this massive labor shortage across many industries, and then we're faced earlier this year and ongoing unprecedented, really, inflation. So it really causes you to think creatively and do business in ways we've never done before. So I think, if you had to sum it up, what we've had to deal with has been enormous, and it's caused us to think differently and outside the box in ways we've never had to before.
Absolutely. I think earlier on, you really had to have your head on a swivel too, because there were announcements every other day that impacted, the grocery category directly, and you had to make real business decisions on the fly. So it's just been incredible. Can you chime in on that, Mike?
You were never bored during COVID. That's for sure. There was always something new coming out.
Yeah.
There was, a new problem you're trying to solve every day. You'd wake up and you'd say, how do I get more product? Where can I buy stuff from? How do I make it, how do I make people feel comfortable and feel safe within our store? And we spent a lot of time and a lot of resources just trying to make people comfortable when they were shopping, try to make the experience better. And then we, as an independent, we were able to call on every channel, every resource. We bought almost all of the meat that Cisco Foods in Peterborough, our local town, had for the restaurants. We bought all their inventory. We bought everything we could. We just went every direction we could to try to make sure that we had stuff available for our customers. And we were able to do that because we have so many different channels we could draw on being independent. Currently with the inflation one, I was just actually out talking to one of our local farmers, and he was telling me about, when he bought his seed, it was 50% more than it was last year. When he got his fertilizer, it was more than it was, and he wasn't even sure if he was going to get his quota. And then driving his tractors and diesel were up twice as much as last year. So he's like, we had to raise our prices, and that came in, that comes into our store, and we run on a margin as well too. So everyone kind of didn't go up as much as he said to me. He's like, I can't go up what it needs to be because it's not fair to people. So we had the same thing too, is, everything goes up and you try to just control and you try to keep it where it's fair, but there's so many costs that just happened all at once, and it was all related to food. And even the same thing is labor and transportation and fertilizer and all that. And it's all directly related to food. So it was one of the first places that really, really feel inflation badly.
Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of what you just spoke about, we only see in the headlines, but it's fascinating to me that you're actually out there speaking to farmers and hearing that firsthand account of how, these prices are impacting the costs of food. So it's incredible. And I think we're going to have to continue to work through this and pull together and find ways to keep our families fed, right? With the increased cost of all food across the board, it seems like now. Thank you both for that. Interesting stuff. So I'm just going to switch gears a little bit. As you know, at GeekSpeak, we focus on e-commerce, right? And historically, the grocery category has been a bit slow to adapt in this area. But the pandemic that we were just talking about forced retailers and brands to either improve their online presence or create their online presence very, very quickly. So Brian, Stong's Market has a great online assortment right now, offering local delivery and curbside pickup at each of your 2 locations. Was this in place before the pandemic, or was it as a result of it?
So it's a good question. We're actually one of the very first grocery stores in Vancouver to get into the online grocery business. What started as a real manual process with, somebody phoning in and a manager or somebody, taking an order and writing it down over the phone and picking it and delivering it on their way home, quickly grew into a thriving online business. So we've been in it for many years. But like everyone in the business, as the pandemic hit, this business that we had and we managed at this level quickly exploded overnight.
Right.
And, we saw volumes that, were unheard of and unprecedented, obviously. And it caused us, we were lucky because we had the infrastructure in place. We had a lot of the pieces, it was just a matter of adding resources to it to deal with those extreme volumes, and adjusting and increasing our pickup opportunities, because we just couldn't get enough vans on the road to make home delivery. But we made pickup service available, and that was something that we'd only dabbled with a little before. That part of the business quickly grew, excuse me, as people took advantage of they didn't want to come in the store, but they were comfortable coming to pick it up. So we were fortunate that we already had a lot of that in place, and it was just a matter of redeploying some resources to deal with those new volume levels.
That's great that you were in the position to really thrive when that happened. So curious to know that now that a lot of the restrictions have lifted, what kind of impact have you seen on the e-com channel for you from a sales perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, we probably quadrupled or more our business overnight, and that's quickly come back down. We're still above where we were pre-pandemic. I think the pandemic allowed a lot of people to try online grocery shopping for the first time out of necessity. And, the good news for us is a lot of those customers stayed with us. So, it's certainly not the levels it was during the pandemic, but still a significant part of our business today.
That's interesting to hear. Yeah, and I think it's very much in keeping with a lot of the macro statistics that we're hearing, where it certainly surged during the pandemic, has come down, but is still above pre-pandemic numbers, which is fascinating to hear. And also, tells us that e-com will continue to grow.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people embraced it, and I've found that it's easy to do and are comfortable doing it now.
Absolutely. So, Mike, I know that you were in a bit of a different position. Do you want to speak about what your experience looked like?
Our experience was a little different because we had no online service at the time. We were actually like Brian's old story, where we had a lot of seniors in our community. They call in a certain day, they get their order, we pick it for them, we drop it off. And we've been doing that for years. And all of a sudden it went from, 10 or 12, older people that were stuck at home and couldn't come out, to all of a sudden everybody was in the same situation. So at the time, we just built that model up. We actually hired somebody full-time to be taking calls, booking orders. We adjusted our website for just a simple form that people could put through orders. And what we did differently at the time was we actually came up with a system where we had volunteers shopping for other people in their community, and we were just helping assist that. So we managed to do a lot of online shopping without anybody actually having to go online. We did it the old-fashioned way. So as COVID went on, that was less and less. We kept taking orders, and we actually launched an online site and didn't have the resources to run it at the level we wanted to. We tried to put it together too quick and decided we were better off at that stage to just partner up in the future and go with something. The surge had gone, the demand had come down to enough that we thought we could take our time and do it right the first time, and not just try to quickly jam something out there that wasn't shoppable to our customers.
Absolutely. But I love how your community came together and how you were able to continue to service them as well. And it's just a beautiful thing when you live in a small community like Campbellford as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, you're in a small town, Michael, in Campbellford. What are some of the challenges that you face being in, a community like that, and given your current footprint?
A lot of the problems that we run into is just getting product to us. So we have a few distributors that come to us, but a lot of times you'll talk to a company and they'll say, "Hey, we'd like to bring our product out to you," and you say where you are, and they're like, "Well, it's going to be an extra $50 for that, or it's going to be an extra $100 to get it to your store. There's going to be a premium." But the competition in the area are mostly all large players, so it's built into their system. So we run into a lot of times where you have products you want to bring in, and it's tough to compete because it's cheaper sometimes to buy it from them than it is from the actual distributor because of that reason. The price of gas was a big part of that as well too. Mm-hmm. And same with we send a truck and buy produce at the terminal there in Toronto, and the cost of gas and that it adds up as well too when you're driving an extra hour or two every day as well.
Absolutely. Now, because you're in a rural community as well, it makes it a little bit more challenging to take advantage of last mile services like Instacart. But I did hear that there is a potential for this to be implemented for your store. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we had been talking with Instacart throughout the pandemic. They just recently, we just had a meeting in one of our other groups in June, and they had a representative there. So we just started negotiating to have them as part of our solution, that last mile solution in town, because for us, as much as we'd like to get into it, with staff shortages and that too, we don't have the resources to really run it right now. Where it allows us to dip our toe in the water. They're the ones doing the delivery. They're the ones taking the order and working with us, that we have a chance to see if there really is demand in our market. And if there is, we have the opportunity in a year or two to decide whether or not we want to take it in-house and do it ourselves or have them do it. But it's a very little cost to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great way to test the market and see what the opportunity is at this stage. Yeah. So that's what we're planning on going in that direction to team up with Instacart.
Okay, that's fantastic. I think that would be a neat thing to have available in cottage country, right? So I'm not sure how far they deliver out, but would they actually, deliver your groceries right up to your cottage, I wonder?
Surprisingly far that they'll distribute. Yeah. They we've worked with them on our territory and that as well. And we do have a lot of people from the city that come out to our area and come camping, and all of a sudden they want to know, can I get this delivered to my campsite? Can I get this, which is not uncommon? Can we have food delivered to our campsite, or can we have something delivered to our cottage? So it is something that I'm looking forward to, because I do believe there's a lot of people that are they're used to being able to shop that way in the city. When they come out here, they want to be able to have the same experience too, especially people who've bought cottages and work remotely now out here.
That's awesome. Well, with my poor navigation skills, I know I could not drive for Instacart to find anybody's cottage. Brian, let's get you to weigh in on this. I know obviously you're doing your own fulfillment at Stong's. What were your considerations for Instacart and other last mile services?
Yeah, I think, and it's a good question. Instacart, I did have meetings with them, and we actually considered it at one point in time. With our online business, because we've been in it for a long time, I would tell you, we have a level of personal service with our team that you likely won't find with many others, if anybody else. We have examples of, customers that have been with us for many years and know all our drivers by name. And, it's not a matter of dropping the order on the doorstep. We actually have drivers that go into the kitchen and put the bags on the counter, or even put the milk in the fridge for the customers. So we've really built a personal level of service to try and differentiate ourselves from the Instacarts of the world. But I do think obviously they play a role and when you have the logistics and the technology that those third-party providers have, you have to find a way to make yourself a little bit different, which I think that's kind of where we focused our energies.
For sure. And I love that. I love that customer service. I've experimented with just about every option there is for e-commerce, grocery delivery, and you're absolutely right. There are varying levels of service. So I love the fact that you're really putting, great customer service at the forefront of what you're doing. And I think that's in keeping with what you want to do as well, Mike, because you made that business decision that, we weren't quite ready to move forward, and so pulled back in order to continue to deliver the level of service that your customers are accustomed to.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, listen, Grocery Innovations Canada is coming up very soon, October 25th to 26th. And Geek Speak will be there. We're sponsoring and exhibiting for the first time, and we're really, really excited about that. Now, Brian, as a board member, can you tell us about the conference and what attendees can expect?
I think GIC is. First off, I'm very excited. My team and I are flying out from Vancouver out to Toronto for the show. I think it's, I was actually in a meeting about this earlier today, and just talking about the level of anticipation for a live event once again. And GIC is really the premier must attend conference for the grocery and specialty foods. This business is so much about building relationships and growing your business. And really the show brings together all facets of the grocery business under one roof, whether it be retailers, whether it be suppliers, whether it be service providers. And the floors features over 150,000 square feet of dedicated booths with exciting products and services. There's many great speakers lined up with all relevant topics, including Geek Speak, I think is going to be doing a presentation there. So I think everyone's really looking forward to attending a live show. So we're excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We are doing a talk, absolutely. And Mike, are you making your way out to the conference as well?
Yeah, we go every year. We send a team there. We've gone as long as we've been a member of CFIG, which is pretty much from the start. Yeah, we've always gone. It's always a great event. Educational sessions in the morning. You get to meet with vendors, learn about new products, learn about new services, and then same thing is spend time with other independent grocers. It's one of the best couple days of the year for sure when you're in the industry.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to meeting both of you in person as well. I'm just going to do a quick check to see if we've got any questions, and it looks like we do have one. So got a question here. Looking forward, let's say 2 to 3 years, what sort of innovations would you like to see in the online grocery landscape from your perspective as an independent grocer?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I'd expect we'll continue to see more automation. You read about it in the news all the time about artificial intelligence and robots and but from an independence perspective, we obviously don't have the budget to invest in that type of technology. I think, we'll continue to work hard to maintain that personal level of service when it comes to home deliveries. And, as technology becomes more available and more economical to invest in, that's something we'll be looking at as well. But, I know when you look at the large chains and the kind of dollars they're investing in online and automation, it's staggering to see where this business is going to go.
Absolutely. And we work with a lot of those large chains as well. And you're absolutely right, Ryan. They are really, really investing in, e-commerce. So one thing that doesn't get old is great customer service. So I know that's at the forefront of what you do at Stong. So that's great. What about you, Mike? What would you like to see?
Well, one of the fun things about the industry right now is, like Brian said, there's a lot of money being invested into it. There's a lot of guys trying to create products and services for the big companies. But a lot of those companies that are doing that are partnerships. It's not the big companies creating the service. It's these third parties working with them. And once they've made that product and designed it for that big customer, a lot of times they're able to reproduce it for us for actually quite an affordable price. So a lot of the great innovation that happens for the big guys, we're able to kind of piggyback on and bring into our system. So we've been able to do that a couple of times over the last years with things that would have been unheard of 10 years ago. We're able to bring into our store and run now because somebody else has kind of done the legwork and paid for the R&D. So there is that side. So as far as online goes, it's impossible to know where it's going to go in a couple of years. Whatever I tell you will be wrong, but I'm excited to see if somebody can, figure out some of the big problems we have and then package it up and show up my front door with it.
There you go. There you go. Well, I think you're absolutely right. We can certainly have the larger retailers invest in the R&D, keep an eye on what's going on, and then, wait for that more economical solution for the independent grocers. So absolutely agree with that approach. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time today chatting with me. We do like to wrap things up with a fun question. I'll go easy. So what was the last non-grocery item that you ordered online, and what was that experience like? And I say non-grocery because obviously you both have grocery stores at your fingertips. So Mike, do you want to go first?
What was the last purchase I made online? It was probably, to be honest, it was the headphones that I'm wearing today, my AirPods, because my dog actually ate my old ones.
Oh no.
I have a puppy that's a chewer, and I don't know how he decided that was going to be a good thing to chew on, but somehow he managed to get both those. So I actually went and priced them out in 3 to 4 different spots, and I ended up just buying them from Apple because at least you're actually going to get Apple-made ones. That's one of those. A lot of times, if you save some money in technology online, you never actually know if you're getting the ones that it says on the package. So yeah, it was a pleasant experience buying from them, except for the price tag.
Yeah, they can be pricey for sure. But interesting how you came about making your decision. I mean, you visited multiple sites. And so that's why it's just so important for all these different retailers to have a great online presence, right? I mean, ultimately, you're going to end up buying wherever you prefer for a number of different reasons, whether it's price or convenience and that sort of thing. But shoppers are out there doing research for sure.
Trust is a big part.
I trust them, and I think that bleeds into grocery too. If they trust you, if they shop at your store and they trust you, they're more likely to buy from you for that reason as well.
100%, 100%. And I think produce and meat for sure are those very important categories within grocery.
Definitely.
Okay, so Brian, can't wait to hear about your last experience.
Man, this is going to sound like such a Vancouver answer, but I actually bought a pair of Lululemon pants online. So you talk about brands you trust and have confidence in. For a tall guy like myself, they actually have a better selection online than they do in store. So I've had good experiences purchasing from there in the past. So that was the last thing I did is bought a pair of pants for the fall from Lululemon. So.
Awesome. So you're a loyal customer. Sounds like.
Guilty.
Amazing. Well, there you go. You can build that online loyalty. Super. Well, listen, thank you so much again for joining us. And thank you to everyone for watching. Where can we find you, Brian? If folks are interested in following up with you, getting to know you a little bit more, where can we find you?
So our company website is www.stongs.com. We're on Instagram @StongsMarket. Also on LinkedIn under Stongs Market. And you can find myself on LinkedIn at Brian Bradley.
Super. Thanks so much, Brian. And Mike, where can we find you?
You can find our website. It's sharpsfoodmarket.ca. You can find me on LinkedIn, Mike Sharp. And you can find our Instagram account. It's @SharpsFM. And what else do we have? Pretty much all the socials. We're @SFM. I've registered it for every single media that shows up. Whenever a new platform comes out, I just grab that right away. So that works on most of them.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for your time. It was great getting to know you a little bit more and look forward to seeing you at the conference coming up in October. Once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure to check us out on all of our social channels at Geek Speak Commerce, and stay tuned for our next episode of Point of Purchase coming up. Take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Tricia.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.